Dear students, we are going to learn how to make notes and write summary. It is an exercise from unit number 2 on writing skill. We call it as note making and summary writing or summarizing. And you have a question for 5 minutes in your question paper, and you must learn how to make notes or how to write a summary for the given passage. You can find this exercise in your textbook from page number 48 to page number 50. Note making. We have volumes of books and every lesson is very large. We cannot keep them in memory. So, for easy understanding, we make notes out of it and try to keep with us, and it is useful whenever we need them. So, for preparing our study materials, note making is very useful, even we can say it is very necessary. What is note making? Note making is a study skill. It helps to make notes of important points from a long text. It involves the fundamental skill of reading and writing. We must be able to read and write and try to understand the large text. Important points are recorded for future reference. It is particularly useful to store and retrieve information to frame a summary later on. Why we give much importance to note making? We all know our knowledge is very vast and unlimited, but our memory is limited. We can't remember all the information all the time. It is not possible to go through voluminous books at the time of examination, and it helps to keep a lot of information at our disposal for ready reference. Not only that, whenever we make an attempt to make notes, it accelerates the process of remembering, and it also helps us to understand the passage, and we are able to organize our thoughts systematically in a logical way. Do you know what the process of note making is? If I ask you, what will you tell? You will tell that you will write, select some important points, write the points here and there, and you will record them with hyphen marks in between. And most of the students I have come across that you have learned in that way, the way of making notes, isn't it? But making notes is a process of understanding. Do you agree with me? Because whenever we read, we must be able to understand. Only then it is called reading. And it involves the process of reviewing, connecting, and synthesizing ideas from reading. It also helps to stay active, and it helps you or keeps you engaged during reading and revision. So, you have to be active mentally. Only then you will be able to read and understand any passage given to you. So, now we will come to the main area, how to make it. Note making, it is called. The meaning itself is understood. What is note making? Making notes from a passage. And how to make it? First, what will you do if a chance is given to you to make notes out of a long passage? You will read and try to identify the main points and the supporting details. The main information is to be condensed and organized. And whenever you make notes, it is called notes, so you need not be given in complete sentence, a long sentence. Main points and supporting details should be distinguished very clearly. One point should not be repeated after another point. Functional words like articles, pronouns, conjunctions should be avoided. Headings and subheadings, when you make, it should be numbered, so you will be able to understand later clearly, and you will be able to follow your note making to make a summary out of it. What are the points to remember during note making? So, I already told you what you must do first. When a passage is given, you must read the passage carefully and get the theme. When you have involvement in your reading, you will naturally understand the theme of the passage. When you are asked to read a story, can't you understand that? Yes, definitely you will understand. Then, understanding the theme, try to give a suitable title for the passage. Then make notes of the main idea under the heading. Jot down the important points. Add sub points under the headings. And as it is a note making, you need not write all the terms in full form. Sometimes you can use abbreviations and symbols wherever possible, but you must be able to understand and follow them. I'll give you some tips to remember before note making. Your note making should be very short and compact, because we are concising a very lengthy passage. At the same time, you should not leave anything. You have to give a complete information. Sometimes you go for the size, and after the way you stop your note making process and give as a short form of note making. But you must give a complete information. At the same time, your presentation should be logical. Logical in the sense there should be coherence of ideas. The continuity of thought must be maintained. There should be a link between one idea you have presented and the following idea you present. And finally, everything you make must be very easy to understand. So, this is the format of note making. You can see on the screen how it is presented. You have selected from the passage a title. That title you have to write. Then I have written a number as 1, 2, 3. They are main titles. The A, B, C, it is given below that, below every number title, and it is subheading. And here is an example. If you are given a topic or a passage on water scarcity, your first note making point or presentation should be in this way. The first heading talks about water scarcity, is a main title. Then the subheading, availability of water. You need not write water. Availability, that is understood that you talk about water. And the sub points you give below that are listed there. Water, sources of life, living things needed for water for various purposes, and the most difficult period of getting water frequently or sufficiently is summer. The people travel long distances to fetch water, and I have used certain abbreviations, SRC, DIFF, PPL, and they refer to the words. SRC is source, PURP purposes, DIFF difficult, PPL people, CONSRV conservation, NECRY necessary. In this way, for your convenience, you can make abbreviations, but it must be understood by others who read later. So, do not go for abbreviations of all the words, one or two. If it is common in usage, you can make use of it. And here I have given you a passage that is taken from your textbook, found on page number 50. And if you read this passage, it talks about the value or the importance of traditional games. It begins with a sentence, looking at the children. There is a striking difference between the childhood that the present generation and the one that the generation having 70s or 1970s or in the past. And in the past, we used to play a variety of indoor and outdoor games. Nowadays, children, they do not have that kind of games. Now they play football, tennis, cricket. But in those days, people were playing kabaddi, goli, gilli, As indoor games, they played Paramapadam, Pallanguli, Pandi, and Adupuliyatam. So now the present generation do not know what these games are. In those days, the games played by our ancestors or the people who lived in 70s and 80s. These games have a rich culture and heritage that conveyed. Not only that, it was passing on some general ancestral knowledge to the next generation. In that way, the passage goes. The second paragraph, it talks about the way it was designed. In the olden days, the traditional games were designed for logical thinking, building strategy, concentration, basic mathematics, and aiming a lot more. Have you played this kabaddi or gilli? Or do you know about that? Have you heard about these traditional games from your father or grandfather? If you ask them, they would tell the interesting and enjoyable experience they had in their youth or in their playtime. But nowadays, the children of the present generation are deprived of all these things, and they go for many modern games, and they do not provide any skill development for the children. That becomes very much mechanical. And if you go through the 3 paragraphs given in your book on page number 50, you can make notes. It talks about traditional games or the native games, ancestral knowledge passed on to the next generation, the design to improve skills, and it almost functioned as learning aids, and people learned to win and lose from those games. And not only that, those games developed sensory skills, motor skills, hand-eye coordination, and it was environment friendly. It was suitable for all ages. Those days you could see even elder people, and they used to play at night or in the evening after a work. There is no age limit for these games. And not only that, they learn about our culture and history. Modern games have their origin in traditional games. So we have the pride that the games of our soil, enriched with culture and heritage, has that great value. Students, we have learned about note making. Now let us see what is summarizing. What is summarizing? In the word itself, you can see it is summary and writing a summary. It is summarizing. We can define it as summing up different points from a long passage and giving a brief note about what is read and understood by you from a long passage. The note making would be very helpful only for this. In note making, you have made points, and from that, if you are able to develop that coherently, you will get a summary of the passage you have selected. What are the uses of summarizing? Summarizing gives a short statement of the important points. It also allows you to restate the key information in brief. In other ways, we can say a quick explanation of a long text. If you are asked to tell a story from a lesson, you will not go line by line. You will give a quick explanation from your understanding. That is a summary, a brief write-up that sums up the whole content. And when you are writing a summary, you must know that it is an important skill. As reading is a skill, as writing is a skill, writing a summary is also a skill. And it improves reading skill. Whenever you are asked to write a summary, won't you read it very carefully? Yes. You will read it very carefully and you will try to understand that. Then you will be able to present all your ideas. And when you read a passage for that, you will try to understand the meaning of all the words given in that. So, in that way, it enriches your vocabulary competency. And in summary writing, we follow 3 C's. What are the 3 C's? One is conciseness, 2 correctness, 3 content. What is conciseness? To convey only the main idea in a concise form, in a short form, in a brief form that will make the listener or reader understand easily, where you will present only the key ideas. Correctness, you will try to convert the main idea into sentence. So, the word accuracy is very important in that. You have to aptly use the right words, preferably the words of the author, and there you will follow the correctness of the idea you express. The content should remain unchanged. You have to organize the content in an order. There should be continuity, coherence between one sentence and the other sentence that follows. So, for that, the method of writing a summary is in 3 major headings. One is rough draft, the second one fair draft, and finally you have to give a suitable title for the passage. Because whenever you read a lengthy passage, you will not be able to straight away give a clear cut idea of the passage. Will you? You can't. So, you have to make a rough drafting so that you can correct later and make a fair draft. And I will give you some tips to write a good summary. Almost I am repeating it. You read the given passage carefully and try to understand the main idea of the passage. Avoid unnecessary words. So, don't select the examples given, quotations given, statistical details given, repeated ideas. All these things should be avoided. Then you write a rough copy, strike out the rough copy from left to right. This is the mechanical way of writing it. And write the fair copy with a title. What are the qualities of a summary? Whenever you are given a work, you would have an idea that it must be good. This is a common human nature. Whenever we are asked to do something, it should be presented well. In that way, if you are asked to write a summary of a passage, that should have enough qualities to present you well. It should be clear to someone who has not seen the original text. When it is given to somebody else, he must be able to understand it without any confusion. And you must include all the author's main points. The minor details could be omitted. A good summary is always brief and concise. What are the steps we can follow to write a summary? Again, I will tell you, read it until you understand it. You cannot simply skim through it. You must be able to understand, because reading is always followed by the word comprehension. Identify the author's most important points. Then you make notes, the first step we have told, and write summary from that. Then check your summary against the original text. What are the elements of effective summary? The summary must have the writer's words, and it must be written concisely, specifically, and clearly. Then throughout the summary, there should be an articulation of main idea. The idea should float throughout the passage, and the key points should be emphasized with the supporting main idea. This is the paragraph structure of the summary you are going to write. The topic sentence should state the source of information and the author's main idea. When the others are able to read the first sentence, they must be able to get an idea that you are going to talk about the particular theme. The supporting sentences should state the author's main points in the same order. So, the following sentences should be always supporting the main sentence we got started with. Finally, the concluding sentence should give the author's conclusion. What the author wanted to convey through the passage must be there in the summary. So, in a summary, I'll tell you again, the topic sentence should have the main idea, the following sentences should support the main idea, and the concluding sentence should give the author's purpose of writing the passage. Now, here is a passage given, and that passage is taken from your textbook. It is found on page number 50. The same passage we have taken for note making. And from the note making, it will be easy to write the summary, but you will be asked either to make a summary or to make notes. But anyhow, if you develop yourself in making notes of any passage, summary writing will be very easy for you. And the passage tells about the importance of traditional games. It is given in 3 paragraphs. So, each paragraph will have a key idea, and it is mainly stated in the note making area. And the main points of note making you can take as a key sentence, and then you can develop your summary by giving the subtitles or sub points you have given for note making. So, before writing a summary and even before making notes, you can jot down some key points, and this you can write in any format. There is no specific way of taking notes from that. The present day games, it talks about cricket, tennis, football, and they are only hit and run games. But the traditional games, kabaddi, gilli, tayakatam, paramapadam, pallanguli, and pandi, adubuliyatam, these may be foreign names for you, but these are the names used by our ancestors. These are the useful games played by even our parents. And the specialties are they are rich in culture, heritage, and they are value based. And they develop our observational skills and even arithmetic skills. It develops logical thinking, fun building, strategy, concentration, and it is finally a proud thing to note that all these games have evolved from the Indian games. So, the author talks about the present generation, past generation, the difference between in playing the games and how it was value based, how the present games are mechanical, and finally he gives a very important note: whatever the game played nowadays, the games have the origin in the games of our soil. So, here you can see the rough draft. In the rough draft, we highlight about the games played by the people today, the people in the past. The second paragraph, we talks about the value, the cultural and heritage value, and how these things were transferred to the next generation by our ancestors. And not only that, the different skills developed by these traditional games, motor skills, sensory skills, arithmetic skills, etc. And they are environment friendly and suitable for all ages. And it's also a matter to be proud of that all the modern games have originated from the Indian games. And finally, we come to the fair draft. In the fair draft, we take important points from the rough draft and we make our summary in a very concise form. It talks about the modern games, talks about the traditional games, importance, difference, cultural values, environment friendly, and the Indian soil has its own pride that all the modern games or only from the Indian traditional games. In that way, we make the fair draft. What are the do's and don'ts in summary writing? I'd like to highlight. What are the do's? You have to read the passage 2 or 3 times and understand the contents explained therein. Underline the keywords and phrases. Find out the divisions of the passage and make notes of the passage by jotting down the major division, main points, and sub points. Then develop the notes into a summary. The ideas should be arranged systematically and in a logical manner. The summary in the form of a rough draft you have to make first. Then read the rough draft carefully and make necessary changes. Go through the rough draft and prepare a fair draft. Clear and precise language in fair draft should be maintained. Avoid taking the phrases and idiomatic expressions from the text. Rephrase the material in a comprehensive manner. Then your summary will be an effective and a qualitative summary that will fetch you the appreciation of others. And not only that, it will be useful for you in the future. What are the don'ts? Don't comment on the passage. You don't give your views. Don't add any new information that you know about the idea of the author. Avoid criticizing the text. Don't give examples or illustrations of your own to prove the points. So avoid all these 4 points. Try to follow all the good things. And the main thing is reading carefully with understanding, and that will help you to make notes. And when you are able to develop the notes made, you will be able to present a good summary out of any lengthy passage given to you, and you can prepare your study materials in that way, and that will be helpful for your future reference in your study time and in your life. It will be a great skill that you can develop day by day, year by year. Thank you very much for listening to me, listening to the class. Hope you understood how to make notes and how to write a summary. Try to practice. Take a passage from the lesson, another passage from the lesson. Try to follow the principles or the rules I have explained to you, and try to make notes. Try to make a summary. That will be a good summary if you follow all the rules. Thank you. Happy learning.